Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone who rule well. And salutations to all you brothers out there pushing this word, love, truth, sincerity, and humility. Once again, it's the brother Shati from the Chicago camp coming back to you with what I hope is another quick and edifying sit down. And I just recently got back from Europe. The Lord blessed me with another opportunity to go overseas and see the history of our people. All right, because for those of you all who may be new to this truth, you will learn that our people, so-called Negroes, were ruling Europe for 1,000 years. And in that 1,000 years, we left a big mark on what we call Europe today. And this time was prophesied in the Bible. When we go to Revelation, was it 12? 4? Let's go straight to the New Testament. Revelation 20. Revelation 20 will start at 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on that dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed for a little season. And that 1,000-year period is the time of the medieval, the Dark Ages. All right. Some historians call it the Holy Roman Empire, which some will say 300 to 1300 or 350 to 1350 AD. Okay. And as I mentioned earlier, during the time of us ruling Europe, we left our mark there. Okay. And we left such a mark in the land of Europe that, just like us, a remnant of our heritage still remains, despite the iconoclasm, despite World War I, World War II, because you have to remember, all right, many of these places were getting bombed. Many of these places were getting hit with grenades, 50 cals, you name it. So a lot of these buildings, a lot of these churches, a lot of these icons were not only destroyed during iconoclasm, but they were also destroyed during the times of World War I and World War II. But even with that, also we can't forget the masterful media blackout of these things. So you're talking about our icons have survived a great onslaught. Our heritage has survived a great onslaught, just as we have physically. Okay. But even despite that, as I said, our mark is still left in Europe in a very major way. So I'm going to present to you a few pictures. Now, what you see here is in the country of Slovenia. It's called Bled Castle. Let me see if I can. You can't see the sign, but Grad is what you call castle in Slovenia. But this is Bled Castle, okay? And I forgot how old it is, but it's one of the older castles there in Slovenia and one of the more popular ones. But as I had a chance to tour through this place, I saw some very interesting things. Unfortunately, I had to put the camera on pause and go to these pictures because I got, stuff with family and things in there that it's just not wise to show. So please be patient with me, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Hold on for one moment. Okay. Now, this is the second level of Bled Castle. And what you're seeing here in the where the red awning is, that's a you can go into a museum there, okay? And in this chapel, well, I should say here to the screen left, where you see the part of the castle where it goes up in a cone on the screen left, that is a chapel. So as I was inside of this castle, I saw these nice little icons. Well, like I said, I got to put it on pause and get back to you all. Okay, first thing that I saw was this, and it's a copy of a painting. And from this, you can clearly see that the king is a so-called black man. All the people around him are so-called black people. All right. And you have two men at the screen left and screen right at the top. These are also black men. These are people who are dressed in royal garbs. They are people of nobility. And it says underneath, uh, Henry II of the throne. Man, it's too small. I can't fully read it, but it's Henry II on the throne. And as you can clearly see, they are so-called black people. All right. Let me grab another one for you. All right. So I'm back. And remember where I showed you that picture, screen left, where I said that part of the castle is the chapel. Now, when you go inside the bottom of the chapel, because there was a top level that had the balcony, and then there's a bottom level, but you couldn't go in through the top. You could only go in through the bottom. And so, of course, when you go through the bottom, it's painted over. It has the iconoclasm in there. So I'm like, dang, everything is ruined. And so I just so happened to look up, and I was like, what is that up there? So as I stepped further back, because the further back you could step, the more clear you could see it, because the bottom of the balcony was, depending on how close under the balcony you stood, you really couldn't see this. But the further back you were from the balcony, you could see what was over there. And as you can see here, this is a royal coat of arms, as you can see, with so-called black men on the cover of this coat of arms. There you have the dark skin, and you have the afros. As much as they tried to destroy it, and as much as they destroyed everything else in there, I'm very surprised that they left this up there. But then again, if you're not in the truth, if you don't have a good eye, you will not catch these sort of things. Okay? And I'm going to put this on pause, and I'm going to bring up some more things that I happen to see in the city of, I mean, not the city, but the country of Slovenia. Okay, this church here, I want to say the name of it was the Church of Annunciation, but nonetheless, it's one of the more distinct churches. It's in the heart of the city center of Slovenia, in their capital city, Ljubljana. You're like, what? Yes, Ljubljana. That is spelled Ljubljana, but it's pronounced Ljubljana. And this is one of the more popular churches in not only the city of Ljubljana, but in the entire country of Slovenia. And so I went in this church, and of course, the young lady there was like, of course, good morning. Do you want to see just the church or do you want to see the museum? Now I'm like, I'll see it all. It doesn't hurt. And boy, did it not hurt. Because when you go inside this church, this is what you see. This is what you see. This is a picture of a black Madonna. They didn't have a description of the time when it was created, but you can tell, like most Madonnas, they were made hundreds of years ago. All right, and I'm going to put this on pause so you can see a more close-up image. There it is right there. Okay. And the thing is, you had to walk into the church, and you had the church part where everybody comes in and does service. Now, that part was filled with nothing but iconoclasm, okay? But there was a small pathway that you take that's around, it's in the same building, but it was further in the back. So you had to walk through this narrow pathway to the back, and you were brought to this one room where it had a whole bunch of paintings and iconoclasm there. And this was in the middle room, in the back. Okay? And so, being completely wooed, I'm just like, wow, I wonder what else is in this place. So I left the church portion and went to the museum. And in the museum, I saw this. Once again, be patient with me. This was in the back. You have a picture of, I believe the description says that it's, let's look here, Mother of Consolation and Saint John the Baptist. So it's who the world calls the Virgin Mary and John the Baptist. And it says the 16th century with a question mark, meaning, we're not sure. It could be the 1500s, could be the 1400s. Who knows? We just know that this is a very old picture. And as you can see in this picture, you have John the Baptist depicted as a dark complexioned man. Mary depicted as a very dark-skinned woman who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, whose name is Yahushua, is depicted as a dark-skinned person, a so-called black person. All right? And also with this picture, you have this. I got to put it on pause once again. This was also in the museum. Once again, another picture of Mary depicted as a so-called black woman, a very dark complexioned black woman, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, being displayed as a so-called black person. And it says, Black Madonna of Brno, 17th century question mark, possibly. It says the Baroque copy of the famous Black Madonna of Brno, which according to the legend was painted by Saint Luke and very probably created in the second half of the 13th century, long before bad Uncle Esau was in power. Okay? Yeah, and that's for y'all who think that was AI. No, I was actually there. And these are things that I've never seen before in my entire life. And there's a close-up of it. And see, this made me think of Micah 2:2, because this information is well known overseas, but it's not well known over here. And it says Micah 2:2. It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man is his heritage. And this type of information has been oppressed ever since bad Uncle Esau came back into rulership. Because according to him, he's always been in power since the time of Alexander the Snake. All right, and I want to get that word for oppress. Micah 2. I shock. And it says to press upon, oppressed, violate, defraud, do violence, to get deceitfully. Ooh. To get deceitfully. It says wrong, extort, to oppress, wrong, extort, to oppress, to be exploited, be crushed. And that's everything that bad Uncle Esau has done to us physically, and he's done to our heritage. As I said, these icons have survived iconoclasm. They survived World War I, World War II, media blackouts, all in the attempt that we would never stumble across this information, or that no one would be able to go over there and bring this type of edification back to the body. Because if this truth, if this type of information was coming out, let's say bad Uncle Esau never oppressed this information, all right, this truth would just be out there. All right, our people would still have some idea of who they are, but when he came back into power, he did these things so that we would forget ourselves, as I said before, in the hopes that we would never remember who we are. But as the scripture says, in the land let me do land and remember. In the land of their captivity, they shall remember themselves. Is that in Baruch? Yes, Baruch 2:30. It says, for I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, which we are. It says, but in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves and shall know that I am the Lord, their power. For I give them a heart and ears to hear. Okay. And being able to present this type of information further reaffirms who we are and who the people of the Bible are. Because many of these things, and the things meaning these icons, these sculptures, these paintings, many of these things were inspired by the Bible. And just to prove that, and then I'll probably want to wrap it up. I don't want to make this too long, because I'm going to give some stuff to Elder Malcolm, and he's for sure going to do a mighty sit down or two on this. So let me put this on pause and get one last picture. All right, this is in a small town called Maria Bistrica in Croatia. And what you see is the church. It's the centerpiece of the town. And so when you go inside this church, this is what you are going to see. Their town flag, which is a depiction of the Madonna that you are going to see inside the church. This is what you see when you go in. All right. And just to prove that this is inspired by the Bible, we're going to get it spells it different in here. Revelation 12:1. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. Now, when you saw the flag, it looked like she was standing on the moon, right? So now we have this picture. I think I have a more close-up one of it. Hold on, let me put this on pause. All right. This is a closer picture. So as we look in here, we see a woman clothed, and she has a child, and count the stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this just goes to further prove that not only are we the people of the Lord, but much of the things that we do, our entire heritage, was inspired by the Bible. Okay. And we are the only people whose heritage is inspired by the Bible. There's no other nation on earth whose heritage is inspired by the Bible. It sure as hell ain't bad Uncle Esau, because he don't like to keep his beard. He doesn't honor the Sabbath. This guy, as the scripture says, is clean contrary. Okay, this is not his heritage. He is definitely not the nation that the Lord chose. And despite all his efforts to make the world believe that he is the chosen, his nation is the chosen people, they simply are not. The Bible, the icons, they say a different picture. So this was a lot longer than what I expected it to be. Nonetheless, I hope you all were edified. Until the next time, we're going to say shalom.